Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple of the different ribbons that you're going to find. In our example, we had a standard 12 count ribbon, plastic. Um, that's what our ribbon machine will accommodate. There are some advanced features on that ribbon machine where you can splice less than a full ribbon. You need to tell the machine, say you have 4 fibers of a ribbon on one side and 4 on the other. You can tell the machine you're only splicing 4, and it's possible. It's going to be kind of rare. It'll do it. You just need to tell it so it knows what to look for. Normally it's looking for 12 fibers, and if it doesn't see it, it's going to think there's something wrong. Now that's a 12 fiber. You're also going to commonly see a 24 ribbon, and basically this will be stamped in 2 locations. This top number, it says, it's gonna be hard to see, it says 3 and a GR for like the third ribbon and green. And then underneath of it we have a number 4, and there's a BR on here for brown. So it's they're just 2 12 count ribbons stuck together. And that's what that looks like. And then we have a 36 ribbon. It's gonna follow the same principle. This particular one, it says 43 in red, 44 black, and 45 yellow. Same principle. It just has 3 12 count ribbons all bonded together. To be able to splice these, our machine will only do 12. Oh, this here is the spider ribbon, which is new, and it can be treated like a ribbon because the fibers are all bonded together. However, you'll see if I pull this apart, they're stuck together almost like one of those Chinese fingers. So they'll lay as a ribbon, and they can be treated and spliced as a ribbon. If you need individual fibers, they can be grabbed and zipped right out of here very easily. The other advantage to this, it can pretty much be treated like loose fiber when you're traying. Because it doesn't have a stiff plastic coating on it, this can lay, and it's much more flexible, much more forgiving. So you're going to see a decent amount of the spider ribbon, and it has just hash marks. So it'll be like central tube, and each group of 72 fibers or 6 ribbons is going to be wrapped with a colored thread. So your first quote-unquote tube is going to be a blue plastic thread wrapped around 6 ribbons, and each ribbon is going to be labeled by a hash mark. There's going to be a smaller single block for number 1, 2 blocks for 2, 3 blocks for 3, 4 blocks for 4. Number 5, which this one is a long block, almost like a long dash. That is ribbon number 5. Ribbon number 6 will be this long dash with a single block after it. And that's as far as the spider ribbon that I've seen so far, how that gets labeled. But this is nice to work with because of how flexible it is, how easy it is to peel out fibers to do any single splicing or repairs. The only downside to the spider ribbon, prepping the cable, is a little bit more precarious because there is no hard central tube that houses these ribbons. They're only wrapped by some paper. So you need to be a lot more careful when you're prepping the cable so you don't cut into it. And also, your cable jacket will have to extend all the way into the basket. There is no tube for you to come off of where the hose clamp is and anchor in the basket. So you're going to take your outside black jacket past where your hose clamp is and come straight into the basket and anchor the end of it in there somewhere. That's the only thing you need to remember with that. Unless different manufacturers make it different. So far what we've seen with the spider ribbon is there's no central tube. All of these are wrapped in paper. Now back to these ribbons, which we need to separate. The 24 ribbon and the 36 ribbon need to be broken out into at least sets of 12 for the machine to do it. Now you could try to dig in here with the point of a razor blade in between or on the end and separate it, which is possible, but the possibility of cutting into a fiber, damaging it, there is a tool that they make to be able to separate these. And that's this right here. In this little pouch, we have a cleaning brush and this tool by Corning that will separate the fibers into different groups. If you look on the side here, we have these look like fractions. We have these numbers. So in the case of our 24 ribbon, if we wanted to separate that into two 12-count ribbons, it would be this second position. You'll have 12 on one side, 12 on the other. Our 36 ribbon, for us to break that down, we would at least first put it in the first slot. So you're gonna have 24 ribbons on one side, and there'll be a split, and you'll have 12 on the other side. And then when that's split and done, you're left with a 24 ribbon. Then you can move it into this slot, and it'll break it into 12 and 12. And as you get smaller, you can break it down into different groups. Here's an 8 and 4. So if you put a 12-count ribbon in here, it'll split 8 on one side, 4 on the other of the split, and so on. You can go, if you only had 4 ribbons left of a ribbon, you can stick it in this very last slot, and it'll split it into 2 and 2. The only thing it won't do is get you down to a single fiber. So the smallest you can get down to is 2 and 2. So when you're done, you're gonna have 2 fibers stuck together, and in that you can take a razor blade at the end of it or manage to get those separated to get down to a single. This can take a little bit of thought to figure out the best way to access a fiber in the middle of some ribbon. You gotta use your brain a little bit and figure, if I need fiber number 7, I'm probably gonna break it into a 4 and an 8, and then a 4 and a 2. What, you know, you got to think about it to get to the fiber you want. Now, this tool is designed to just slit a small section. You don't want to drag this tool over the length of the entire ribbon. It's just getting to a clean separation that you can grab and then just pull apart. So to open this, on the front, you have this little lock here. So when you squeeze that, the lid will open up. And we can see that there is all these grooves in there, and they're varying depths. So the button here is what activates the split. Now you can see that bottom die just moves back and forth. When you close it, these grooves all match up. So depending on how deep that ribbon is laying in this groove, the point where these 2 plates slide is where that it's going to break in between the fibers. It doesn't drive a knife in between anything to split it. It's basically just shifting the dies over and forcing those fibers to part in between. So it's a very expensive tool. It's very precise. It needs to be clean. If you have grit and stuff in there, the ribbon is not going to lay at the proper depth. And when you push the die to try to separate it, it may be right on a fiber and it crush it and break it. So what we'll do here is start off, this is a 24 ribbon, and to break this into 12 and 12, if we look on the side, it's the second slot, 12 and 12. So we lay that in there, into that slot. Be careful closing the lid. Don't let it just drop and slam down. If this is offset a little bit, you can break fibers. We just push that in there and close it. At this point, there's a little bit of play, if you can see that moving up and down. We want this fiber to be moving there freely. If I push down on it, it's binding in there a little bit. If I pull up on it, it's binding. You want this to be kind of get this equilibrium where it slides freely. That gives you your best chance of that split happening where it's supposed to. So you see, I only have a little bit of fiber sticking out on the side. When I press this button, it just made the split. I'm going to pull this ribbon out, and we can see it made that split. Now, one very important thing is, before you pull these apart and zip this down, you want to ensure that it's split at the correct spot. So here's a ribbon. There's blue fiber up top, and it ends with an aqua. And then this one here, it goes from blue to aqua. So we know the split is in the right spot, and you can take these two and you can just zip it apart. If this was not accurate, and say you had blue fiber here and it went to the rose, and the aqua fiber was attached down here, You don't want to zip that apart, because I can tell you from experience, if you tried to isolate that last fiber and just hold it to this side and hope that it would correct itself as you zip further, it will not. What's going to happen is it will continue to zip with 11 fibers here and a single fiber by itself, which then makes it difficult to put it into the chuck and splice it. Your best bet, and the reason for only slitting a little bit over here, is if you check it and you have 11 fibers here and 13 fibers here, cut that off and start fresh. And make sure that that's in there, this is clean, and you get a good split. Because again, trying to compensate for one fiber being off, you'll never get it to correct. And no matter how hard you try, it's going to stay wrong all the way down. And it's difficult working with one loose fiber when you have 11 of a ribbon and a loose one to try to get it in the chuck. It's possible, but it's a pain. So you just need a little bit of a split and you can work it. And if it's incorrect, cut it off and start fresh. So that's your 12 and 12. Let's go to the 36. So this is a 36 ribbon. Now, the only other thing you have to pay attention of, depending on what type of separation you want, how these numbers go, is if your ribbon going to be stacked this way or this way. It's more when you get down to getting smaller than 12. These numbers are going to tell you how many fibers you're going to have on one side of the split opposed to the other. So depending on which fiber you're trying to isolate, you're going to have to pay attention to, do I put it in this way, or does it have to be flipped around and put in this way? Now in this situation with our 36, the first thing we can do is, the very first notch is 12 and 24. So again, I'll put it in here. We don't have to split very far. We'll close the lid, make sure it feels loose. I'm going to push this button. It only goes in so far. You just push it and hold it, and then pull the ribbon out. If it doesn't make a lot of noise and it's smooth, you're fine. If you push that button and while you're pulling the ribbon out, it kind of makes a crunching noise and it feels gritty, sometimes it'll be okay, but that means that it's trying to force the split probably on a fiber. And sometimes you'll have that situation where it didn't split where you want it to. In this situation, we got blue there down to aqua. So this ribbon is fine. We could split that out. Now we're left with a 24. So then to split this, I'm going to open up the tool. And now we're going to go to the 12 and 12. Lay that in there. Close it. Make sure it slides freely. I'm going to push that button and hold it. And pull that fiber out. And double check this split. We have blue to aqua and blue to aqua, so we're good. And you can zip that down as far as you need to go. When you're down to your just 12 fibers, say we want to split it into 8 and 4. Now, if you want the side with 8 to be fibers 1 to 8, 8's on the bottom, so your blue fiber you want to put on the bottom. So it's going to go in order. Fibers 1 through 8 are going to be in the bottom of the split, and the remaining 4 are going to be at the top. So, and all these slots, they work the same way. Put it in the correct one, close the lid, make sure it's not binding, push the button. Now that one kind of was crunchy, pulling it out. And we did 8 and 4. I think it's still okay. It looks a bit more ragged where it did the split, and that's why it felt crunchy, but it's still split in the correct spot. So if I pull this down a little bit further, we have blue through black, which is 1 through 8 on this side, and then you have the remaining 4 on this side. And that's how you do it. So what we have here, say we want the red and black fibers. We have a total of 8 here. So it needs to be split into a 6 and a 2. So we have a slot for a 6 and a 2. So again, I'm going to open this up. And we want to isolate the red and black. So the bottom is going to hold the 6, and the top is going to be the 2. So obviously I want my red and black to be up top, because that's the 2 that I want to isolate. We put that in there. See, that feels very tight. It's a little bit better there. This tool can be a little finicky, especially when you're doing a lot of splits and the edges are a bit ragged. They won't tend to slide in there that easy, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to push the button here, and if I can get it, pull that out. That still felt a little crunchy. We'll see how it goes, but we're okay. It's gonna be hard to see, but the red and black fibers are there. You can see the plastic coming off of them, so you'll see them as single. There's your red and black. So we got them separated. And there's the rest of them. This tool can still be dangerous. Like if you have a ribbon ring cut and you need these two fibers broken out, you would find the end of your ring or the loop at the end, and then you would use this carefully, only slitting a small area and then making sure your separation is all right, and then you can start pulling it apart. But that's what this is for, to be able to isolate and split your tubes.